Recording.
Yay,
Yes.
it's Friday, everybody. Let's applaud Friday. Friday at 5. Happy Friday. Welcome to Friday at 5. I'm Karen Taylor of the Color Vowel Chart, joined with a bunch of color vowelists in the room. We tend to gather every Friday, almost for a whole year now. Jennifer, it's coming up, right?
March
Oh God,
27th.
yeah.
March 27th was our first time.
Yeah, this was a response to the whole pandemic shutdown. We needed to stay in touch with each other. We felt the need for some social interaction. And so we launched Fridays at 5, and it's still going very strong. So we're just so glad to have you. And we have both new and old faces in the room and young faces, old, new,
Yeah.
and
Speak for yourself there.
I'll go for the old. All right. But this is the fourth Friday at 5, and that signals a special session that happens every month, and that is Ask the Linguist. The Linguist is and always is Dr. Robin Barr, who's right here in the room. Great. And so we invite questions, and I think all of us have questions during the month, and then we don't write them down and forget them. So that was my case. But we do have the chat open. And we have some good questions, I have to say, and one oral question at least that has not been written down.
I have my video.
Oh, right. Yes.
I'm all queued up when you're ready to.
Wonderful.
So am I, Jennifer. I have a competing video for you.
I'm going to start with just a couple of announcements, though, as just kind of as a reminder at the end of the month. This is the time to remember that new workshops are starting up in just a week. And if you go over to our website on the training calendar page, which I will show you here, training right here at the top, this link, just because it's so easy to look at these and say, ooh, these are only the subset of events that have been put up for registration. All of our events are listed right here in our live training and events calendar. And just because we like historical record, you get to see the past months as well. But here's March, and we have a lot coming up in March and April, as you can see.
Can you make that big? I'm having some trouble with that.
I sure can. I can make thank you for asking and requesting. So here we are looking at March. You see that big red banner? We've got the TESOL International Convention. That's the Teachers of English for Speakers of Other Languages. It will be an online virtual conference from March 23rd to 27th. Color Val will represent, as will Blue Canoe. So we're happy to be there. And so if anyone is interested in that level 1 basics workshop that we normally have every month, we will not be holding one in March, but rather it starts again in April. So there's the next basics courses right there. But we have plenty going on in the level 2 journey in March, including rhythm and chants, phonological awareness, which is a new workshop with Dr. Robin Barr. And actually, this is a little bit of an announcement. We have actually decided, and I think we have the one person in the room, Susan, we're going to be rescheduling teaching vocabulary. So just know that we've decided we have so much on our plate, and it's still on the beginning side of registration. So you'll see that changing. So do not be surprised, and we will work with you to figure out the next step, okay? But there's a lot going on. We're really excited. What else? Also, let me just say to April too, we have Shirley Thompson coming in to teach a wonderful level 2 workshop called Bringing Textbooks to Life with Colorful Integrations. So those will be strategies for working with a textbook that you work with. And then we'll have our second cohort of Readers Theater coming up. And Jennifer just finished one round of that with Skip and a few others. So we're excited about that too. Okay.
Unless we do vocabulary instead.
So that's the beauty of a living document like that one that lives on our website, is that we can change things around. If you find yourself signed up for something that gets changed, don't worry, we will take care of you.
When you
All
say
right.
second cohort, do you
Okay,
mean?
excuse me.
Oh,
Yeah.
Go ahead now.
Yeah, and please put the when the daylight saving start.
Yes, we will. We'll make sure of that.
I can tell you right now. Well,
But we'll mark that in the calendar
yes,
for
we
sure.
will.
Okay, fantastic.
When you say a second cohort of Readers Theater, do you mean a second level of readers theater, or the same readers theater again for another group of people?
Exactly. The same course for the second group it's ever been done with. So
Okay.
that was a bit ambiguous, though. I agree. And probably I regret using the term. It's just be our second iteration. There we go. All right.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey, we're so glad to have you here. Let's go ahead and start off with questions. And what we'll do is, I know that Jennifer is coming in with a video that we'll start with. And then we'll break into sort of the smaller individual questions. And we try to keep this from going all kinds of crazy directions by doing something. So I've got the kazoo. I might pull something else out to call time, or Jennifer will, but we'll call it about 4 to 5 minutes at most for each question or each.
Yeah, that trick
topic.
never works.
We'll try. We'll try. It's better than having like no plan at all, right? So
Okay.
Jennifer, can I hand it over to you?
Sure. So I was telling my family about pure practice, and we were talking about, music and language. And my son found this video and sent it to me about the Scotch snap.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know if anybody else has seen that. And so I want to play just a little portion of it. I'll put the link in there if you're interested. It's fascinating to listen to from start to finish, but we'll just listen to the first few minutes of it. So let me find that. Now it's disappeared. Hold on. Sorry. I got too many. As always, I have too many windows open. Where'd it go? Well, darn. It's disappeared on my desk. Okay, let's come back to me. It disappeared.
Okay. Hey, Skip. Mr. Skip is talking. You're up. You have your oral question. He's lost his
Unmute
microphone.
yourself.
There we go. Okay, so what's the difference between singing and speaking? Like you were talking Bob Dylan, good one, like Tangled Up in Blue, that song. It's like that's really long, has a lot of words in it, but he sings with a stronger stress in parts of the song, but then he sings in other parts.
Yeah, that's not one I remember, but I do remember what is it? Rainy Day number, whatever it is. You don't need a weatherman to see which way the wind blows. That one.
Yeah.
And it's it's a chant. Dun, da, 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 da. You don't need a weatherman to see which way the wind blows, but you can't really say that there's a lot of singing going on. Or
a lot of folk songs, I mean,
think Rex Harrison in My Fair Lady. They since Rex Harrison can't sing, they gave him a song with maybe a pitch range of 5 notes or something that he could. I've grown accustomed to her face.
Yeah.
Okay, da 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 da. But the orchestra is doing the melody, but he's not actually on pitch. He's just, I've grown accustomed to her face. So he's got the rhythm, but he's not actually doing the pure singing sound. And one of the things that's different between singing and talking is that your vocal cords switched into a different mode, which I never realized before. But there are the vocal folds are like, they vibrate together, and if you're phonating, if you're speaking, they kind of going like this, and if you're singing, they're more connected at one end, and if you're whispering, they're like connected at the other end. There's different ways that you can have and vocal fry does something else again. There's different kinds of phonation. It's called different ways that your vocal cords can sound. So if you're singing, that's just one note. But if you're speaking, you're still using pitch, but it's not as clear a tone. I don't know if there's more harmonics or more variation in pitch. You're not on a single note for a long time.
Yeah.
So that's how I would distinguish them. But as we've seen, even speaking is actually pitched as because people sound like they're singing if you are listening to it over and over and over again.
Yeah, that's
And
like there's like a old car commercial. This is from way long ago, but the Ralph Brown Buick, which was local to this area, and he kept saying it over and over again. Nobody beats Ralph Brown Buick. And after a while, it started sounding like a song. I was like going to
Yeah.
school, and I'm like, start to kind of sing it. Nobody beats. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, it's really weird.
So Nat, it's not that the notes are shorter, it's that they're not steady state.
Oh,
So a steady state pitch would just be all on the same pitch for a certain amount of time, whereas spoken vowels at least are always going up or down, because that's where the intonation is on the vowels.
So I can imagine moments in speech like holding the floor if somebody says, "Oh, I don't know,"
Yeah, so that
Yeah.
would be a
where
steady
they
state
use
vowel.
a note and then they break back into speech.
Yeah.
Or maybe very
yeah.
idiosyncratically, like, "Oh, I
Yeah.
don't know."
But
right?
that is more pitched, isn't it? But it's still, I'm not sure it counts as singing, because your vocal cords aren't doing that special song vibration thing, which has a purer sound than going instead of going I can't even do it. But
Okay.
yeah.
singers know the difference. I mean, they're singers have a funny word for it. They talk about head voice and chest voice or throat voice, right? So it's the head voice that's the singing thing, and the throat voice that's the speaking thing. Lynn, you look like you know what I'm talking about.
No, just
Explain.
saying that my timer went off.
Okay.
So interesting topic of speech and versus singing.
Yeah.
And
I've got mine now.
It's interesting to me that like the folk songs or just some singers, they will say it in the song and it will come across as a speech, as these words, and then they'll start singing it and it'll bring more emotion into it. It really starts to play with you once you really start to notice it more. You're like, oh, wait.
Well, that actually leads into Jennifer's question, but let me address what Nat said here. Is chest voice pharyngalized vowels and head voice is laryngalized vowels.
ooh.
So chest voice, a pharyngalized vowel would be and laryngalized would be maybe.
I'm going to
And
spotlight Robin
polarized
Barr so we
would
can all watch her doing this. I'm
be,
putting you
I don't
in
know
big
the answer, Nat. Can you produce them?
I'll try. So basically, I'm trying to find my lower larynx right now. I'm not very comfortable speaking because it's difficult for me to speak still. I'm quite accurate, but it's hard. So I'm trying to experiment. How do I switch to my chest voice? And so what I noticed is that I can voluntarily switch between the two. Like, for example, right now I'm speaking in a more laryngalized voice. And right now I'm going a little bit more down, but I have to force myself to use certain muscles.
Pharyngalized, yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, I think pharyngalized is more like vocal fry, what you're talking about. So it's like this, pharyngalized. Is that how you think of it? Pharyngalized.
Yeah, I'm not sure how accurate those terms are, because there is this Smalley's manual dated 1963.
Oh, Smalley's oh, that's a wonderful phonetics thing. Yeah,
I got that idea from. Like, he doesn't say that English vowels are pharyngalized, but he has a discrimination exercise where you need to choose, is it laryngalized and pharyngalized? And what I feel is like, it's pretty much what I'm trying to do with my muscles. It's like it's controlling these muscles here. It's almost like saying the ooh sound, the dark L. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Yeah.
Well, it's a little hard to hear you. You might want.
Yeah, we can't hear you at all, Natalia.
I have something to say about that, which is that people with what's considered a Russian accent or Russian L are what I would consider using a velarized sound, which is the dark L that Karen's question is about, saying more, spelling it with an L. So it's also the bullwinkle sound. Gee, I don't know, Rocky. What do you think? That's the sound. And I would call it velarization rather than pharyngalization, but I think that's what Smalley is referring to. I guess it could be pharyngalized. What the pharynx is this part here just before you get to just above the larynx.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you're making that space bigger, then you could.
But there
do
is
this.
more space for resonating and.
Right. It's a bigger resonator, and you're sounding like this, even though your vowels are pitched the same, but they have a different kind of timbre. And I'm not sure how that relates to chest voice and head voice.
So you think it's not identical at all?
I know that my singing coach was always working very hard on getting us to expand the pharynx and raise the velum and make more space back there in order to make a bigger sound and hit the higher notes. So I'm not sure. To me, that might be more like head voice, but I think maybe they're not. I don't think it's the same thing. I don't think chest voice and head voice are the same thing as pharyngalized and laryngalized. Well, I think that pharyngalized is what I've been calling velarized, and that's what's happening in the Russian L. So like leaf, go ahead.
As I transition to the next question, it just makes me think of when I hear choral directors saying, sing out, have the music come out of the top of your head. There's this choral gesture thing, and I always wondered what that was. I wonder if that's an indirect, informal way, or I don't know, outside of the head kind of way to get at this distancing that they want you're describing. So interesting.
I mean, chest voice and head voice, that doesn't mean anything either. I mean, it doesn't respond to it doesn't correlate to anything in the chest or the head.
Exactly.
Right? Because your voice is coming out of here.
It's all metaphorical.
Yeah, it really is metaphorical.
Yeah. And that's so interesting. Well, that's great. Thank you for that question. I think
that's fascinating. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
Do we want to go from Skip's to Jennifer's, or do you want to go from Matt's to Karen's?
I wanted to end, like I've also heard, like on Terry Gross, that Barry White actually, he has deep baritone. He actually shouts through his music. I don't know what that means.
Well, if you're a singer who involves the vocal cords in a shouty kind of way, you can really injure your vocal cords that way. So you have to be careful. And Terry Gross knows all about that because she wound up with laryngeal polyps or something, and had a hard time speaking for a long time. She's a whole lot better now. But so next question is are we ready for Jennifer's?
I think we are.
Scottish flip or snap.
All right, there you go.
Vocal rhythm that's used in a lot of hip hop and pop music these days. And no, it's not the triplet flow. Plenty of other people have talked about that. No, this one is a lot more subtle, but once you notice it, you won't be able to unhear it. It's everywhere. Are you ready?
He's doing it.
This rhythm of a metrically accented 16th note followed by a dotted 8th note has a name. It's called the Scotch snap, named because of its use in traditional Scottish song and dance, as well as the Lowlands Scottish accent. It's also known as the Strathspey rhythm or the Lombard rhythm and can be found in early English Baroque music. So why is this rhythm showing up so much now in American pop music? Well, it might have something to do with how Americans speak English. A foot is a basic unit of rhythm used in language. A trochee is a foot that has a stressed syllable followed by a weak syllable. So for example, teenage, mutant, ninja, turtles. The stressed syllable in this case falls on what we might consider the musical downbeat. In many dialects of English, the accented syllable is very short. One corpus study suggested that among European languages, English had the highest percentage of patterns with very short stressed syllables, many as short as 100 milliseconds. This number is significant in music making because 100 milliseconds corresponds to the length of a 16th note at 140 beats per minute. As L.A. Buckner on PBS Soundfield has mentioned, modern trap hip-hop tempos range from about 110 beats per minute to 140 beats per minute. So what this means is that by using the cadences of certain English trochees, we will naturally, in fact, tap trap rap Scotch snaps. The Scotch snap's popularity has really ratcheted up in recent years. Trochaic phrases like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles weren't originally set to a Scotch snap. But say it in a Scotch snap, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles instantly becomes an affectation of a modern hip-hop style. Not all styles of modern music use Scotch snaps. Jamaican dancehall music, for example, would rarely use the rhythm. Jamaican English and patois feature much longer vowel sounds than American English. Consider talking versus talking. The dialects have different rhythms, so a person rapping in a Scotch snap would not sound particularly Jamaican. Now, the average distance between short and long sounds in a given dialect can be measured by something called the Normalized Pairwise Variability Index, or what's known as the NPVI. Quick alternation between long and short sounds yields a higher NPVI, and there's actually a formula that can be used to calculate a given language's NPVI, and it looks like this, which looks impressive, so I'm showing it to you. My American accent, as well as other American accents, happen to have a high NPVI. We alternate very quickly between short sounds and long sounds. Latin languages with lower NPVI, like Spanish, often use the foot of an amphibrach, or a stressed syllable placed in between two unstressed syllables. For example, lo siento, te quiero, el mundo, mañana. The rhythms used in modern Spanish rap follow that pattern, like in the song Mi Gente, which itself is an amphibrach.
Hey, gong! Remember the Gong Show? I call out my gong. I've hit my limit, right? I mean, I'm just curious, has anybody else hit their limit on listening to all this, the gobbledygook? Because it's neat, but wow.
Well, it takes a while to take it all in, and you have to watch to the end, but the idea of these rhythms appearing in music and in your own language, and the fact that it's dialectical within Englishes, I thought was pretty interesting. So what do you think?
Okay, I have a lot to say about this.
I thought you might.
I had a one-syllable word, but I think Robin has many multi-syllable words.
Do you have a one-syllable word? What's your one?
Gong.
Gong. Okay. Well, one of the things that I love about connecting music with language and with teaching pronunciation is that the songs of a people represent the language rhythms of a people. The problem is that a lot of times you get imports from other cultures, from other languages, and then you wind up with songs that don't match the rhythm. But if you think about, oh gosh, I don't know where to start. I know where to start. Let's go back to the invention of opera.
That sounds like fun.
In Italy, in Renaissance Italy, since that's where opera was invented, opera music sounds best in Italian, it turns out. That's why it was such a big deal for Mozart, for example, to write an opera that had German singing instead of German lyrics instead of Italian lyrics. And a lot of it is the difference in the types of syllables. So Italian has all these open syllables and so forth. So if you're trying to sing opera in some other language, a lot of times, I mean, how many of you ever heard opera in English? In fact, let me.
Just light opera. I was going to say, does Gilbert,
yes.
does Gilbert and Sullivan count?
Gilbert and Sullivan does not count. And I'll tell you why in a second. So if you listen to opera in English, you still need to have those surtitles or subtitles because you can't understand what anybody's singing because English doesn't fit opera and opera doesn't fit English, and the words are not understandable. And yet, as Jennifer points out, well, we listen to Gilbert and Sullivan, and it's very easy to understand them, understand the words in Gilbert and Sullivan. Even those patter songs that go lickety split that go very, very fast, they're easy to understand. Why is that? And that's because light opera, or the rhythms of a Broadway or Broadway tunes or Gilbert and Sullivan songs, or poetry that's not iambic pentameter, but poetry that's limericks, for example, the da 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 da, that fits English better. So and English folk songs that are in that form, like row, row, row your boat gently down the stream, merrily, 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 life is but a dream. That's a very English rhythm, and that works fine. Where you have songs, common songs that do not fit English rhythm, it turns out they're borrowed from other languages. So twinkle, twinkle, little star is a very syllable timed rhythm, which is unlike English, but that's because it's French. À vous dirai-je, maman, ce qui cause mon tourment. So you start with French, you get the French syllable time, and that's where the melody comes from. But the folk songs of a given language will represent the pronunciation of that language. And first, let me play something. Can I share? Let's see. Yes, I'm going to share the sound of this song by Zoltan Kodály. See if you can hear the Scotch snap here. It's not just American English that does it. So let me play this here. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing that. That's Hungarian, and the rhythm of Hungarian is da-da, 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 like that. And that's why this Hungarian music by Zoltan Kodály has that stress pattern. So it's not just Scottish. And now let's look at English and American English in particular. If you look at jazz and blues and poetry based on English, beat poetry, you'll find that unlike traditional art songs, it very closely follows the rhythm of English. So I would like you to say for me this phrase: I hate to see the evening sun go down. Okay, I just put that in the chat. Say it aloud to yourself and figure out where would you put the stresses? How does the intonation work? I hate to see the evening sun go down. So where would you put the main stress if you just said it normally? I may have like, I hate to see the evening sun go down. I have like two stresses. You know, I have a beginning and an end, a initial head of the phrase, and then a later a tonic syllable.
Like something like, are you saying like, I hate to see the evening sun go down?
Yeah, so I hate to see the evening sun go down. There you go. I hate to see the evening sun go down. Is what you just said.
Yeah.
Okay? I hate to see the evening sun go down. Okay, and how would the pitch go? I'd like to see with your hands how you make it, how you do it. So is it? Like there's two peaks. I hate to see the evening sun go down. I hate to see the evening sun go down. I see now has brown cow. So you have a gray day. I hate to see the evening. Is that a mustard sun? And go down, brown cow. So I hate to see the evening sun go down. Okay. Now let me play you a jazz standard. Let me make sure that's open here. This is Bessie Smith. This is a very early recording of her in a film, but it's one of the most famous blues songs ever. It's the St. Louis Blues or St. Louis Blues. And I'm sharing the sound. Let's see. It's an old recording, so it might be kind of, you may need to turn this up, but this is where the main tune starts. Okay, play. It's thinking. It's thinking.
Thinking.
Oh, come on.
You've got a lot of tabs open over there.
I know.
Maybe complaining.
But played before.
Let's see. Uh-oh. Let's see.
Well, I can sing it for you. Even if we can't hear Bessie Smith. So it's, I hate to see the evening sun go down. And it does the same thing as what you just showed. I hate to see the evening sun go down. The same pitch, the same rhythm, the same stresses in the music itself. So it's the music is reflecting the speech almost directly. Okay. So Karen, you have a whole lot of cards up there.
I do. It means that I need to ask you to stop now, please. I'm asking you.
Okay.
I'm just trying to come up with creative ways, to say that we have lots of topics. That was super fun. And meanwhile, I saw Lynn. She's like, "Why is Olive up there?"
Okay, so why do you have Olive? What were you doing with Olive?
Olive sock stop. Brown cow now. I am black cat asking you. Green tea, please.
Please.
Yeah.
Okay.
A little piece of that.
Got it.
You got it. Hey, that was fun. So much going on with music here.
Oh, it's awesome. Yeah.
Well, let's see. We had a couple questions from Lynn. Lynn, would you like to ask your question about GH?
Yeah. So GH, no sound, that, F, cough, I'm coughing, I'm, and ghost, the ghost I can almost get, but it's like, so yeah, what's the history with that?
Yeah. Can everybody put in some words that are spelled with a GH just in the chat?
Sure,
just so we have a bunch.
That's
so
fun.
Type as many words as you can think of that have GH in them that are, and let's see what they do with them. Cough, through, nice. Laugh. Ghoul, yeah. Ghost, tough, rough, yeah. Cough. Okay. Right. Yeah.
Tough, rough, ghost, straight, through, cough, aghast, ate, thought.
Oh. Yeah.
Right. Height.
Right.
Doe. Tough.
Yeah. Now, okay, so the GH at the beginning of a word, that's actually easier. Well, it's a little weird, but the GH at the beginning of the word is usually not, it's not an Old English thing.
I think it's probably leftover spelling from.
Yeah, but it's usually a borrowed spelling, or somebody figured out a way of because they wanted to spell it that way, so it wouldn't. So the G would be a G and not a J. Right. Although this usually happens before front vowels. So like Ghent is spelled Ghent. The town in the is it the Flemish town, Belgian town, so that we don't pronounce it gent, right? But how that got stuck in with ghost and aghast and ghoul. Ghoul actually might be an attempt to pronounce the Arabic original form, like it's that we get in Al Ghul. Algol is the star, and we get the word ghoul from Arabic. Ghetto is a good example. Now ghetto is a good one because that's from Italian, and if it didn't have the H there, it might be pronounced as ghetto or something like that. Okay. Yeah, spaghetti, nice one. Oh, I like that. Yes.
Is it maybe that H reminding us that it's kind of got that aspiration after it?
Well, there's no aspiration in spaghetti, but it just means that it's you're separating, you're using that H to separate it from the E, so the E doesn't affect the G in some kind of spelling kind of way, right? Although like general and giant, although words in gherkin, oh, nice one.
I'm using the Blue Canoe
dictionary. Yeah. So so those are spelling issues. Spell it with a GH, either because you're reflecting the original spelling of the language you borrowed it from, or you're keeping it from getting pronounced like a soft G or palatalized G, as in general and so forth. Now the other GHs that we see after the vowels, those I find more interesting because they actually do represent a real sound in Old English. So in Old English, the GH, well, it wasn't spelled quite like that, but it was a fricative. It was a ch or a r sound. And so we had, let me go back up here. Lachen would be to laugh. And that's just like German. Anybody here know German? Lachen means to laugh in German. And same with right, you would say Richt. And in fact, this sound is still present if you were Scottish again. So loch is the Scottish word for like a lake, like Loch Lomond or Loch Ness, right? So these words develop, the GH sound in these words develop differently depending on the surrounding sounds. So if you had a front vowel like echt, then it would develop into a Y sound, eight, right? But if and after actually after a rounded vowel, often it would develop into an F, like cough or rough. But sometimes it would disappear altogether there too. Thought, right? The ch of thought is what happened in this context to the K of think. Okay, so the ch in thought is a fricative version of the K in think on, which is so that the k and the ch were allophones in Old English. And same with sight. You have sight, but sihan, to see, and so there was a ch there. But in sawan, it turned into a W. Right, so see and saw are related. And are there any others that are weird in there? Enough, do, sight. So for all of those, unfortunately, the subsequent changes in the language have obscured the relationship of the rule that told you when you would get an F, like rough, or cough, versus a W, like bow, ultimately, or a Y, like 8. So you can't predict anymore how you're going to pronounce that GH, and you certainly don't know where to stick it in. There's no way to predict which words are going to have a GH in them, because it doesn't represent any actual sound anymore.
Well, and that precisely came up yesterday in our spelling exploration workshop, that we were sort of looking at, that we're providing strategies for students to look at words and how they're spelled, but that it doesn't necessarily wind back around and help them spell words that they hear.
Right.
There are going to be pieces they can't.
I mean, it's a many-to-one correspondence on both sides.
That's
so
right.
Many-to-one this way of in terms of sounds and spelling, spelling and sounds. It goes both directions. Yeah. So catch and caught, seek and sought. So you can see those regularities in some of the verbs. You can see that the root of the verb actually originally had a k in it of some kind, and maybe that'll help you spell it. Hard to know if that's something that it's something you want to. It might be something you would notice, but it certainly wouldn't be a rule you would teach.
Right. Yeah. Trends again. Hey, well, that's neat. And I think especially for those that were in the spelling, that 4 weeks of spelling together, really neat stuff.
Now there's a bunch of questions about dark L. Well,
let's start with just regular L for a sec, if we will. Jody asked a great question, and one that I'm super interested in. Jody, you mentioned, go ahead and tell us what you wrote there. You don't have to read them.
I know, I'll just say what I remember. So I have a pronunciation tutorial student who I've been working with for a while. And then recently he brought up this, we've been working on L&R, and he's pretty good at pronouncing them. But he recently brought up the fact that when he's listening, he has a really hard time. And when there's a word, like I think he brought up like cloud and crowd, where when he's the listener, he can't tell which one it is. And usually context will help him, but sometimes it doesn't. And so he wanted to know like how he can work on his listening. And I went, I did a very brief look at some research, and the only thing I could find that had come out of like actual research was to give him models of different speakers, where he's not just listening to the same person all the time, but having a lot of different models. But that just seemed like not enough. I mean, that wasn't enough of an answer. And yeah, Nat, I see what you're putting in the chat. I mean, I looked at a lot of like, YouTube videos about Japanese learners and looking at these allophones, and I just could not come up anywhere with like a way to help him, not just explain why it's hard, but like what he can do.
Okay. 2 things to say. Number one is there was some interesting research done by Brown and Matthews, I think it was, Cynthia Brown, I think it was, maybe 10, 15 years ago, on native speakers of Chinese versus native speakers of Japanese, and whether or not they would ever have categorical perception of L versus R. Okay, so for both sets of learners, the beginners did not have categorical perception of L versus R because their native languages did not distinguish L from R. But for the advanced learners, the Chinese native speakers, I think it was Mandarin, most likely Mandarin, eventually did acquire a categorical perception of L versus R because their native languages had a feature that distinguished a sh from a sh, 2 different kinds of sh sound, which is the feature that distinguishes English L from R, right? So because they had the feature already in their heads for their own native language, they were able to transfer it to the perception of the new sounds that weren't in their language but used the same feature to distinguish them. So this was for the Mandarin speakers. But the Japanese speakers and the Korean speakers never got that because their languages do not have that that distinctive feature that allows for categorical perception in adults. Okay, so and that gets into categorical perception and critical period and brain things and stuff like that, which I'm not going to get into here. But the second thing I would like to suggest, though, is that even if you can't get categorical perception of L versus R, the fact that he's doing a good job of getting the endpoints in production, I think is going to help him eventually distinguish the two sounds in a more statistical curve kind of way. So not strict categories that are clearly separate the way they are in somebody who's perceiving the sounds in English, or eventually an English learner who's a native speaker of Mandarin, but at least one of these normal bell curves that you might get surrounding your optimal pronunciation of L versus your optimal pronunciation of R, so that they might intersect sometimes and you would have a hard time hearing the difference in the middle, but the endpoints, it would be easier to distinguish. Okay, now I think, but this is a theoretical, this is a hypothesis that has not yet been tested or borne out. I think that being able to pronounce the different sounds is going to engage the mirror neurons in the brain enough so that eventually when hearing the sounds, the brain will be able to say, oh, how would I make that sound? That's probably an L, or how would I make that sound? That's probably an R. I may not be right. I would like to think it is. That's what the mirror neuron hypothesis would suggest. In the meantime, I would suggest, number one, pronouncing the word and seeing which one came closer. So if he's not sure whether it's cloud or crowd, and that's a particularly good one because it's not lake versus rake where it's at the beginning of the word. It's cloud, which makes the L a lot shorter, and crowd, if you're saying it in a British accent, is going to be a flap instead of an approximant, and so forth. But cloud versus crowd, if he tries saying it and looks at his mouth while he's saying it, that might, so using vision and using motor feedback, muscle memory feedback, might be a way that he can get into the perception of the sound and decide which is which. So if he's looking at the person who's speaking and they say cloud versus crowd, noticing the rounding of the lips, for example, might be key. Not being able to see the person who's speaking would make it a lot harder to tell. I'd like to ask now how that works. Now, how does that work for you?
Yeah, I think you're right. And like it was my program, like green tea E and the syrup A or something like that. And I practice a lot. And when I how do you say, I pronounce properly L and R like a cloud and the crowd, and I how to say, like, oh, this is a difference, like that. So after that I can of course it's still a little bit difficult and distinction L or R thing, and especially dark L, and but like clear, or so at the beginning of the word with L is or R is, now it's very, very clear. So pronounce first and listening later.
Yeah. So the mouth teaches the ear. And now you make a really good point, because for both L and R, when it comes after the vowel, number one, you have dialect differences. So sometimes the R disappears in some dialects, or it's pronounced in different. It's not the same. It's not pronounced as the same way it is before a vowel. And same with the L. After a vowel, it might be a dark L, in most American English dialects anyway. And so it might turn into what appears to be a vowel rather than a consonant. So pull. You don't know, is that an L or what is it? Is it a W? Is it an O? What is it? So I would say that after the vowel is going to be really tricky because it affects the timbre of the vowel so much. You might have to use that as the clue. But before the vowel, yeah, Jill Biden versus Joe Biden. Yeah, I have a hard time hearing that too, right? But at the beginning of a syllable or before a vowel.
Everybody, wait, when you said that, everybody did this and looked around, trying to listen to it in their head. I just had to watch
Jill
the
Biden.
That was great. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it was Jennifer who noticed it, right?
Yeah.
Just tell us your sensation.
Jill Biden.
Yeah, I was listening to a news broadcast or something, and they were saying, and Joe Biden, and I was like, was that Jill or Joe? And they just,
it was actually,
and the more you say it, the
more,
less you can distinguish it.
Especially in this area around Baltimore, you're going to get the L to W rule. Also in areas of Kentucky.
But it's also the strategy of
Southern Ohio,
right? Who says instead of bundle, it'd be bundle. You know, so
who says this?
I said it's so interesting though that it shows up as a strategy for the non-native speaker who struggles.
Oh yeah, yeah. So syllabic L winds up being O, which gets you to your more example, Karen.
I was wondering, just a quick like add on, your example of China really was interesting because I learned Chinese and I've tutored some, and they the people from Beijing in the north, and they because in Beijing language they have an R. It's really
they have R as a fricative all over the place.
Yeah, so it's like, you know, like ping is a bottle and it's per, which is in Beijing. It's like really strong, like retroflex. Like wow.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if that made any difference. That's after a vowel.
I mean, they've got the R, right? But it's but is it the same as the L, or is it an allophone of the L, or what is it? I've tried to ask my Mandarin speaking students, and they're not really sure why they have that R and where it comes from. So I'd have to talk to somebody who has
I've used it with other Chinese from the north, and I'm just you know, it's like Beijing Hua, you know, it's Beijing language speaking. You know, I'm like, and they're like, oh, okay.
I mean, you can't just stick in R's everywhere, anywhere, random like pepper or something. You there's a reason why some words have it and some don't, but I don't know what it is. Yeah. So anyway, so that's my story about L and R, and after a vowel, that's going to be a lot harder. But before a vowel, I'm thinking that being able to pronounce the difference is going to help them hear the difference, especially if when they're trying to distinguish it, they try pronouncing it themselves, maybe looking in a mirror, you know, feeling what their mouth is doing. Might help that mirror neuron.
Hey, a real color vowel question that Susan raised and that I'll raise again too. Because I have my answer, but I want to now recheck it because every once in a while, where does dark L fit on the color vowel chart?
Yeah. So we've got all these liminal sounds. We've got the L at the top. We've got the R at the top. You can't see what I'm pointing to, but you know, Karen, you can see.
Yeah. So we have, you know, is right up here, and light L is about here. L. Touch.
Yeah. Palatal. And then O is it's almost a W sound because it's it doesn't have the lips, but it's got the velar area, so it's like a W in that sense. So the dark L would be over by the W, I guess, except you don't have the lips involved. So W.
Yeah, wouldn't a good trick for getting,
and smile.
Wouldn't a nice dark L trick be just to create blue? Let's say you, and then to unround.
Smile. Ooh, 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 ooh.
Still sounds like wooden to me. I'm not sure about that.
Ooh, ooh. Yeah, but if it's unrounded, pull, pull, pull.
Yeah.
Well, especially after rounded vowels. So especially after the vowels on the back side of the chart, on the right side of the chart, I should say, or when it's syllabic. So feel,
feel,
pull.
Yeah. So often we get into how the tongue is sort of way back here, and then we have l and little, little.
What about real? Like
real.
A wheel.
Yeah, real.
Real.
It's just like fire, right? Real.
Fire.
So if these liminal sounds, these are liminal by liminal, I mean on the threshold, Latin limen, on the threshold between vowel and consonant. So if they can be a syllabic nucleus, then they turn into a vowel, and if they have to be on the edge of the syllable, then they turn into a consonant. So
I used rural yesterday. I thought that was a neat.
Rural.
Yeah, rural.
Or squirrel. That's a favorite one. Squirrel. If you're trying to do it as one syllable, it's almost impossible. Squirrel. But I help my students by saying make it at least 2 syllables. Squirrel, and then they have an easier time with it. Yeah, rural and squirrel.
Wonderful.
Do they rhyme for you? Rural, squirrel.
Yeah, rural, squirrel. I want to draw a picture of that. There was another neat question coming from Lynn about the future of Auburn. Do you think Auburn is going to go the way of the buffalo, go extinct over time and become just part of a big back vowel merger in North America, or what?
Well, certainly that's what's been happening, is a big back vowel merger. So we inherited 3 back vowels from British English. So we have the center, the center of the rose boat, orange door, turquoise toy, the O sound that you get in law, which I can't quite do, but it's a sound that we don't have mostly in American English. Auburn fawn, that one. Yeah, so Auburn fawn, which is almost an O, but a little bit more open. So it's not a moving vowel. It's like O, but without a W, and then open a little bit. Auburn. And it in addition, there was olive bottle.
Yep.
So
we've got Robin Wake in the room, by the way, who is Australian, just so you know.
Oh, can we have have a native speaker produce the 3 of these for us?
We do. Robin, would you do us the honors, Robin Wake? Would you say Auburn fawn for us?
Auburn fawn.
And now the other 2. Olive bottle.
That's an O sound. Olive bottle.
And then
tomato cart.
Okay, so that's our ah. That's what in American English is olive sock.
Right.
And then olive bottle is American English Auburn dog. Yep. And then we don't have Auburn fawn.
Auburn fawn.
In American English.
So does everyone see what happened? These 2 shifted. Olive was here, Auburn was here, and in the mouth they shift backward and upward. And that
actually, if we start this way, they shifted. So olive bottle, the words olive and bottle shifted forward towards tomato, and then Auburn fawn shifted downward into the what used to be olive bottle. So it filled the space. And what's interesting is that we had a merger of these 2, both the original tomato and the original olive as tomato, and then the original Auburn then took over the 2 spaces that were left. So some dialects of American English still have the aw of Auburn Fawn, as in coffee talk. That would be the New York City version of aw.
Yeah, extreme Auburn that we think of as
right.
Yeah.
And it's not really coffee talk, but it feels like it to speak people who don't have such a high sound. Or also in addition, there's dialects that now merge all three, and depending on what dialect it is, they might merge them all as what used to be tomato, so the ah sound, which is our olive sound, olive sock, which is Karen's dialect, or it might be like New England, which merges them all as the sound that's in Auburn dog. So you might say Boston, Boston, because their tomato cot is taken up with the AR. The cot is takes up that ah spot.
Did I hear Robin say black cat?
Black cat, black cat. I have a pretty. You're, the other Robin. Sorry, go ahead.
Black cat.
Black cat. It almost sounds red to me.
Yeah.
Right. Actually, both of us have a very high black cat. Yeah.
Black cat. Yeah. And so then say red for us. red pepper.
Red pepper.
And do these sound different for you?
Yes.
Okay.
Very. The blue canoe has awful trouble with my pronunciation.
It is trained on North American accents, so that would be a good reason why it has trouble. It's not prepared. But we,
if you're from New Zealand, they shift even higher. So instead of yes, you might say yes, and instead of black cat, you might say black cat, and so on up. Is that the impression you have, Robin Wake?
I haven't thought about it. I'm sorry.
New Zealand speaker. So a lot of times you can tell a South African or New Zealand speaker because their front vowels are shifted even higher. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I had in one of my textbooks, there was a text, a listening comprehension, and it was a New Zealand speaker talking about linguists, and where people learn Maori. And they had places called linguists. I can't even do it really well, but language
nests. Oh, yeah.
Language nests were linguists.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to listen to.
Oh, that is fascinating.
Terrible for ESL students, but
yeah, it won't work on Blue Canoe either because they're also shifted so high up that it's very hard to hear the difference.
Wonderful. Well, hey, this has been a lot of fun. The time always passes so quickly.
Can we do your MLR just because we were right there?
Sure. All right. Let's finish up with the question, which is, I did not pull up the picture, but let me just set the stage for this one. When my boy was 4 years old, easily 4, maybe young 4, he and his twin were still drinking out of these, what we call sippy cups, which are these plastic cups with the lid with, you kind of suck the stuff through. Okay, that sounds gross. But anyway, sippy cup. And so they'd had, okay, fine, it was chocolate milk. So I'm a bad mother right now. But anyway, they'd had chocolate milk and they apparently wanted more because he left me a note with these letters scrawled on it and with this empty sippy cup. And it said, it had MLR, MLK. And I think it had the word chocolate, CHK or something like that. So I'm writing it here. So MLR, MLK. Let's just say it said what I have here in the chat. And I knew, very clear what he wanted was more milk, but I wondered why. I understand that the L there is like the dark L, but my question is, how did he know to put an L? That's my question.
How do you say it in the alphabet? In the alphabet, when you say the alphabet, the L is at the end of the syllable, right?
L.
H-I-J-K, L, and then O-P. So L, O.
Oh my gosh. I don't know why I just had not, it's so hidden from us that like Y begins with a W and L has a dark L in it.
L,
okay.
L, yeah.
That's beautiful.
Isn't that cool? So if you're learning the alphabet, I had a Thai student who could not say the sequence L, right? And so when he would spell his name, it was Mongkol. He would say Mongko, ow. And we said, ow, there's no letter named ow. And so when he recited the alphabet, HIJK, ow, MNOP, because the L, the sequence L turned into ow, right? And so help turned into help and so forth. And so I had to have him take it apart. And so it would be and then he could add the L, elp. And if he used a front L, he could be understood, elp, better than if he tried to use a back L and then turn into alp. Say with my daughter Lucy, she could not say her own name when she was 4 or 5. It would turn into Woosey.
Woosey. Right.
Because of the dark L, Lou, because that's before a back vowel, ooh, right? Lucy. But she was also in a French immersion kindergarten in which she was Lucy, and she could say her name in French just fine. She could say her the front L in Lucy. So she got so when she said her name in French, the L was there. When she said her name in English, it turned into a W. So that was just fascinating to me.
Wow. Okay, there's also a story there with melon and lemon, but now we get into family stories, right, Robin? I mean, she also, instead of saying lemon, she used to say melon. I remember that story.
Yeah.
Would that also be because the L?
Before, melon and lemon. And she would say map instead of, I don't want to
take a nap.
I don't want to take a nap. And she would turn nap into mat. So that was feature metathesis. That was more like when she was 3 or so.
Okay, feature metathesis. That's going to be the next topic at our next
child language. Okay, yeah.
Maybe next time we'll have terms that we should all try to remember for the next time we get to go to a cocktail party, if there ever is such a thing anymore, and if we ever get to go to one, we can pull out, what was it? Metathesis? What? Who?
Feature metathesis.
Feature metathesis. Okay, we're all going to learn these terms. We're going to learn 3
alligator and escalator. Oh, I look at what, Nat, you're absolutely right, because to you, palatalization is important. So it's y versus l are almost different phonemes, or at least allophones that have conditioning environments. And then Lynn, I love that. My husband's name is Al, and the Thais, I'll call him Ow. Yeah, of course they do. Yeah.
They can't put an L on the end of a word. It just doesn't happen.
Right.
They repeat everything.
But the fact that the vowel also changes is what was giving my student the trouble. Because if he had said L, that would have been easier to understand than saying ow, right?
I frequently call him kun ow.
Ow.
For years, so yeah, we speak a lot of Tinglish here.
And my husband has a dialect that will change AL to
thanks, Jody. Good to see you.
Brown cow. Good to see you, Jody. So to me, when he said, this is when I first met him, he was talking about the Cowles Foundation. And I thought he was saying the Cowles or something, Cowles Foundation. So I was doing it differently, because his ow is like ow, and that's different from my ow.
Oh, because you use olive to blue, I think, and he and I use red, black.
Black to ow. So
and
to me,
more of an ow.
The sound is ow. So I said that must actually be al. So I changed what he was saying, ow, cowls, into cows, right? So that was one of the issues.
All right. Jennifer's going to work normalized pairwise variability index into her everyday conversation.
I need to listen to more of that, because I don't understand what that is. I'm gonna have
well, maybe that's a good sign. I mean, maybe it's a sign.
He was basically, he used it and said, it looks impressive, and then he doesn't talk about it anymore. So don't think that he was trying to be overly pedantic, but.
Again, I want to thank everybody for coming. If you love all of this, you're going to super love our level 2 workshop, Phonological Awareness with Dr. Robin Barr. It starts next Friday.
I'm looking forward to that so much.
Yeah, it starts
I
next
have more
Friday.
than can fit into 4 weeks, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But
And you know, we're pulling out all the best stuff that I've watched Dr. Barr do over the last 20 years. Super excited to see a lot of that. It'll all be experiential. It will blow our minds. So, Kate, next Thursday.
I'll see you there.
Yeah, we'll see you there. And thank you. And just next Thursday, don't forget, we have another episode of Pure Practice, which is our brain-based speech engagement, where we simply do English. We don't look at it or write it for the most part. And I'm still working on my model to see if we can do it without any video glitch, but I hope
your motto.
My motto.
Instead of model.
My motto. I'm going to motto English. All right, everyone. Have a great Friday. Have a safe weekend. We'll see you again.
Thanks for all the great questions. Save them up for next month. Write them down.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Hey.